Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Transitional Champion podcast. I, of course, am your co-host, Dirt, along with the other co-host, Nasty Nathan Kennedy. Say hi, Nate.
Hello, wrestling and no overtime. I got to sleep a little bit longer today. Hell yeah.
And you actually showed up today.
Yeah, I showed up today. Man, so we're at work and, you're sitting expecting like an 8-hour shift and then we're encroaching. We're about an hour away from going home. They're like, yeah, no, we're working 10 hours tonight. And I was like, okay.
They can't tell you that when you arrive? Is that like
no? Yeah, no, that's kind of like they can just punch you in the face with it whenever they want to. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking about it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get home. By the time I get home and shower and eat a little something and start to settle down, it's gonna be well past 4 a.m. At that point, I'm like messaging you. I'm like, yeah, I don't. Can we just do this Thursday? And they're like, yeah, sure. I'll talk about NXT, which I watched a little bit of that, and valid points. I think I am attracted to it just because it has a different production style and the way everything's laid out. To me, it doesn't look like your traditional WWE, which is kind of what I want more out of wrestling these days. But no, I enjoyed it. That was good.
Well, and it does feel a lot like a Major League Wrestling or an ROH or one of those shows. So it's definitely trying, I think, to compete more with those shows than with itself.
Yeah.
As far as that stuff goes. But so everybody out there listening, now you know that when you're in the job of artificially inseminating horses, they can just hit you with overtime, and there's
yeah, that's what I do for a living. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Apparently, I think that was an episode of Dirty Jobs, as a matter of fact.
I've only watched like 2 or 3 episodes of that show.
It's a great show. It's a really great show.
Yeah, they look cool.
All right. So anyway, this week we will be looking at Raw and SmackDown. These are the go-home shows for the Elimination Chamber, which means next week we will have Elimination Chamber, Raw, and SmackDown to talk about. And honestly, I don't know if I'll make it all the way through next week because this week damn near killed me.
I'm going to say this up front. I am giving the edge to SmackDown over Raw. Just because of that gauntlet match, but dude, I'm and we'll get into it. But really, with whose idea was it to have a segment? We're gonna have a match, and that's gonna fall apart, and then we're gonna make it a bigger match, and then it's just gonna go on forever.
Right. Yeah, so
forever.
I mean, okay. So here's some quick notes before we get into it. So if you wildly disagree with these, then turn off the show. If you want to hear more, you're intrigued, then stay tuned. But Baron Corbin needs to go. He needs to not be a part of Raw anymore, or at least find some other storyline or something for him, because that is just terrible.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey is not the draw that she needs to be anymore. She was the spectacle when she came in, kind of like Brock Lesnar, but it's just not working out the way it has with him. And even he is, wearing out his welcome towards the end here. And Mustafa Ali, even though he's one of the bright spots I'm looking forward to in the Elimination Chamber stuff, he is he suffered a concussion for real. And WWE, I don't think they've said anything about it yet. So I'm kind of worried that his role in Elimination Chamber is going to be, he's going to be released and be eliminated, and he's out, and that's all he's going to do.
Yeah, I don't even think he's in that match now. Isn't the replacement Kofi Kingston now?
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah.
Is that why Kofi Kingston was fighting in that thing?
Yeah.
Because that 4-hour thing at the end kind of threw me off.
The gauntlet match. Mustafa Ali is out of that match entirely.
So that's why they did that. Okay, because I was really confused why that whole thing was even happening.
I think from the looks of it, the plan was for Mustafa Ali to probably last as long as Kofi in that gauntlet match. What I figure, unless they just change. I honestly, I'll say my thoughts for that when we get to
maybe
SmackDown.
I'm confused then, because they just had Kofi come out and get in the middle of this thing, but they didn't say anything about Mustafa Ali.
There was I
mean, let's maybe commentary through in a line.
Well, did you not see that little video package that they did where like Mustafa Ali's talking, like it's almost like he's talking to his phone and it's like snowing on him and he's like, I'm hurt and I can't. Did you not see that? You probably just zoned out by that point.
Yeah, because like I said, this week almost killed me. This was not a good week of shows.
Yeah, man, Raw is bad. Really bad.
Well, then now I got to like reconfigure the Kofi stuff in my head then, because that then makes a little more sense. Mm-hmm. And if that's true, then that segment, if Kofi's being thrown in the Elimination Chamber, then that segment works better.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing, though. If Mustafa Ali has a legit concussion, he that may be it for him.
No,
no, because they ever since the Chris Benoit thing, concussions are a lot.
Well, that's kind of if you get them.
Well, but it depends on how big it is.
Well, not only that, but if you're prone to them, like I know Sasha Banks has gotten a couple, she still manages to get cleared and wrestle. So
well, and I don't, and I guess I should rephrase that. I don't mean forever, but what I mean is like Daniel Bryan, he suffered a couple concussions, but he was smart enough that when they asked him about it, he could answer everything correctly.
Yeah,
and it took them like 6 months or something before they realized, oh wait, this is a much bigger problem.
But he was also having seizures as well, like
right. But they didn't. Yeah. It wasn't linked for a long time,
right?
And so Mustafa Ali, it could be one of these things where they go, we have to set you aside for 6 months, and if they, just to make sure there's nothing wrong, to do the testing, to do whatever. And then when he comes back, what are the chances that he's going to be, jump to the top of SmackDown again, or he's just going to go back to NXT or 205, never to be heard from again?
I mean, that
you know what I mean?
That could happen, but
because this was his big chance to jump up, and so now he suffers the concussion. He's out. That may be it.
I don't see him being out that long, though. I don't. Maybe a month. Tops.
Okay, well, I mean, but still a month. Is he going to come back in a month and be the top guy on SmackDown?
I guess that's all up to Vince, right?
Right, but like I said, I don't see WWE doing that.
Yeah, you can see Vince. He's weak.
I was his age. I had 45 concussions.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad they take the precautions now. Like that's the thing. Like,
well, and they kind of have to because now. Now that Chris Harvard has made it such a big thing, I'm sorry, excuse me, Chris Nowinski.
I mean, Chris Harvard, still where I know who you're talking about.
Since it's such a thing that he's pushed, now there have been guys who tried to bring up lawsuits against WWE, but it's been too long. So now, if there's even the chance, I'll bet they're a lot more cautious about dealing with the person. So, like I said, he's going to have to sit out for a while. Maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks, maybe 6 months, who knows, depending on how bad the injury is. But like I said, when he comes back, it's almost no chance that he's going to go right back up to where he was. He's probably going to get buried, or at least worst is get the mid-card death on SmackDown. So anyway,
get the Finn Balor treatment.
Yeah, well, some people deserve it. No, I won't say that. I won't say that.
I was going to say, you're going to say Finn Balor deserves...
I will say this. I'm glad he got rid of that dumb body paint.
Oh,
where it looks like
really?
The big demon mouth coming out of his neck.
I see. I think it's a good look. They just haven't done enough to make it mean anything on the main roster. That's part of the problem. Like some of these guys, when they go from NXT to the main roster, it works better.
Well,
in Finn Balor's case, I don't. But it's like Vince doesn't understand it or something.
Kane was the big red demon, but he was the big red demon who would walk out and command fire and could shot fireballs once, I think it was, and would burn people alive and like all this kind of stuff. And he was riffing off the Undertaker's thing and taking it to a fire, because of the whole storyline and whatever. But they actually gave it some more credence. They actually built a mythos around it. Whereas Finn Balor, it's like, hey, here's a guy who's Irish and he paints teeth on his chest and he's a demon. And you're just like,
well, like, if they found the right way to do it, I think it would work. But no.
If you either got to commit to it like a really bad comic book villain like Kane, or you kind of use it as a nickname, but you don't, put that much of the Boogeyman is an example. Terrible wrestler, right?
Yeah.
But they played that character like straight down the line. Like legitimately, people would be in the back and they would, have these like smoke would appear and the music and the Boogeyman, and then they would like wake up.
I totally see what you're saying.
So it's like you either got to commit to how horrible the gimmick is and see it all the way through, or just don't even go there.
Isn't it fantastic that the Undertaker managed to last this long? Really, like that's amazing to me.
Well, and I think part of it was he understood that it could be insanely goofy if he played it wrong, so he was very particular about playing it the right way. And so I think that makes a big difference, because again, that could very easily be a really dumb gimmick. You're a funeral director, who comes out. What, like, do you dig the graves? Are you the grave digger? No, you're the Undertaker. So you put the flowers on the pedestal next to the coffin, and that's the gimmick, So he had to take it, to that next level where he's like, he is dead. And then he came back to life and now he wrestles, which doesn't make any sense either, but it makes sense within the world of wrestling.
Digging holes, taking souls.
Oh no, I just realized some of the lights on these are new glasses, and there's a strip of green that's already not working. I'm gonna have to return these.
Your gimmick's busted.
Man. All right.
Was there anything like super newsworthy? I didn't really keep up with any of the news. I saw something like Seth Rollins is hurt. They're kind of like keeping him from being active probably until they really, really need him to be active.
Yeah.
I know AEW's Double or Nothing sold out in 4 minutes, which is very impressive.
Well, we did get Pedro Morales.
Yeah.
He did pass away, so that was some sad news there. He was a legend. Although WWE made a tribute video and put it on YouTube, but then on SmackDown they just put a graphic on the screen and went away.
Yeah.
And he was, unfortunately, he was in that era.
Pre-Hulk Hogan?
Well, yeah, not just pre-Hulk Hogan, but pre-Madison Square Gardens, circuit camera, closed circuit camera network. He was extensive tape library. He's one of those guys that, you can find a handful of matches here and there, but he wasn't someone that they have as much of a tape library of, and they couldn't really work him the same way they worked some of the other legends, because he was just in that awkward period where it just wasn't recorded as much. They didn't have the footage, and he just didn't have that legendary status built around him like guys who came before, because the guys who came before were legends by the time the TV started to become more of a thing. And so then the guys in the TV more of a thing could be a part of it, but he was in that middle period where he wasn't long enough ago a champion to be a legend at that point, but he also wasn't recent enough to be a champion to still be a main event threat on a lot of those shows. Yeah. So he just kind of hit that unfortunate period where he just wasn't that big of a deal to the modern fan.
Yeah, and he was a little bit before my time as well, because I really didn't start watching wrestling until the age of 4. So that would be like 1988.
Yeah, and I only know him from watching some old tapes. Back when I first started getting into wrestling, there were a bunch of us that would just trade tapes.
That's
a
awesome.
lot of them. Some of them, like this was, I think, like pre-eBay, really. Even, I mean, eBay was kind of a thing, but it wasn't the thing it is now.
Yeah.
So it was more along the lines of there were guys that would actually type out like the matches they had on video cassettes. And you would get like a packet of sheets, and you'd kind of flip through and you'd be like, oh, I want 5-star matches, volume 5. And they would, send you this tape. And some of them were even like Japanese tapes, because, the Japanese wrestling scene was huge, and they were even big on the old black and white.
Well, I mean, even then too, that's what wrestlers were doing themselves to kind of like get their work spread around, is they were like trading tapes of their own stuff to people. It's like, hey, get this, and this person would see this. Oh, hey, you got to see this, and that's how, honestly, that's how Paul Heyman got a lot of guys in ECW back in the day.
Yeah, that was a very big thing, especially in the indie scene, where guys we always recorded our shows back in the New Midwest Wrestling days. We actually had a multiple camera setup. So we would have like a stationary camera that was up top, kind of looking down at the ring. And then we had one that was right by the entryway. And then we actually had a guy with a handheld that was wired to the back. And so he was at ringside watching the guys come out and watching the stuff in the ring. And we actually had a switch box in the back, and we were switching between the different cameras during the show. So we actually had a pretty decent production going on. And so a lot of guys, they would come and they'd wrestle a show. And, like Jerry Lynn one time came and wrestled the show, and he was very interested in getting the tape. Like the tape was a big part of his payment.
How long ago was this? Like, can you timestamp it?
I mean, he was, I think he was already like NWA, maybe even TNA at this point. But I mean, this would have been like 15 years ago, maybe.
All right, so we're talking like early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. Okay. I hear Jerry Lynn's a super nice guy. Is that true?
Oh, he is. Actually, the funniest thing is, so here's just the quick Jerry Lynn story. The place where we were doing a show at the time, there was no shower. And so my house is literally, I don't know, 4 blocks from the venue.
Yeah.
So some guys would come back here and shower. And so, he wanted to take a shower because he had to, get on a plane and go somewhere else. And so, yeah, no problem. So I drove him back, and someone said, put in death metal, because, he's a big death metal head, and I don't have any death metal. So I'm like asking around, someone gives me a tape. So I put in the tape, and we're driving, and he's like, digging the death metal, and you could tell. And he was really nice and talkative and whatever, and, going on. And we get to the house, and he walks through the door, and our cat just like runs up to him and just looks at him, and he turned into like the biggest puffball. Oh, kitty, oh, kitty, and like picking up the cat and like rubbing its back, and you good old kitty, oh, you're a good little kitty. I'm like, this is Jerry Lynn, and he's like,
this is the guy that wrestled Steve Carino and wrote "die" on his stomach with Carino's blood, and here he is just petting this cat.
Yeah, and he loves cats. Like, cats are like his big thing. So yeah, he just sat there and did baby kissy face with the cat for 5 minutes, and then took a shower. It was just like the most bizarre thing ever.
Yeah, that's weird.
So anyway, all right. I was looking at some of the other stuff. I don't really see a whole lot of other.
Yeah, there wasn't too much going on this past week in the news.
Yeah, AEW though, they did sell out real quick. If you logged in a few minutes late, it was impossible to even get tickets.
I know they're already like scalping them, and people are pissed about that. And I hate scalpers.
Let's see here. Major League Wrestling. Oh, Major League Wrestling is moving. They have been Friday nights at 8. 7 Central on beIN Sports. Now they're going to move to Saturday at 9, 8 Central, starting this weekend. Yeah, starting 16th. Yeah. So if you're going to watch, if you're going to give it a shot, whatever, you got beIN Sports, so you can sign up through Sling TV. You can buy their international sports package for like $5 a month, whatever. If you want to check out beIN Sports, it's going to be Saturday nights. They've moved it. I'm not sure why. I'm trying to like. I had a note about it somewhere. They want because of SmackDown, because SmackDown is moving to Fridays.
Oh, yeah, and but that's what. When is that happening? October or something?
Yeah, it's still
off. But it's good to go ahead and just plan ahead and get that.
Well, the idea was they wanted to establish themselves in that time slot, so not have it change like a month beforehand. They wanted to have it change now. So then by the time it comes, you're just kind of in that mode, like, oh, okay, well now SmackDown's Friday, and then Major League is on Saturday. So the thing is though, here, so we have 2 Sinclair networks here in town. One is the ABC and one's the Fox, and they're both Sinclair stations, so they get ROH. So we get ROH like 11 o'clock Saturday night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then again like noon on Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, because it gets played again. Yeah, it's played twice on the ABC and once on
that's my kind of time frame right there.
So, yeah, for me, it's like, okay, we're gonna save the show and I'll come back later and watch it, because that's not gonna happen. I don't know. I'm just trying to think.
There wasn't much really.
All right,
nothing super noteworthy.
So on to Raw, since we wasted almost a half hour now. Oh God, it opened with another terrible promo.
Yeah.
It opened with Triple H and Stephanie already in the ring, So at least they saved us from watching the 5 minutes of intros and whatever. But they talked about the women's tag championship at the Elimination Chamber. They talked about Daniel Bryan's title match at the Elimination Chamber. They talked about Ronda Rousey, and she's facing Ruby Riott for some dumb reason at the Chamber match.
I know you don't really care much for Ruby Riott, but I think she's a good worker. I think she deserves to at least have that spotlight on her, even for just a brief throwaway match like this on the road to WrestleMania.
Meh. So anyway, they talked, of course, about Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch came out and they said something about how she went and saw her doctors instead of WWE's doctors, and they, kind of jacked back and forth, and they said, but whatever, it's fine. You can be, it's like, wait, was this the one? Was it this or was it tomorrow that they said, yeah, you can be in the main event as long as you apologize.
I hate this.
To Triple H.
I hate this. I'm going to use one of my curses here, but this is dumb as shit. It's I'm sorry, because they spent the entire show. It's like, will she say I'm sorry? They built it up, and I'm just like, this is so lame. It's so
also
lame.
This is the dumbest thing about it, because Triple H and Stephanie have made this big push over the last month or so, whatever, that we're listening to the fans and we're going to be putting together the product, and it's not about the egos, it's about giving you what you want and blah 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 blah. And now we're going to put what may be the greatest match in WrestleMania history, when the women main event at WrestleMania, in jeopardy because you won't say that you're sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just like the dumbest thing ever.
It's lame. It's
like, I can understand, like, the medical thing makes sense. Like, you have to go see a doctor. You have to be medically cleared. We will put the match in jeopardy because we're good people trying to put together a good show, and we don't want talent getting killed at the show because they didn't see a doctor. That makes sense. But the moment they're like, well, you have to say you're sorry, like, who cares? Like, how does that help business? You know
it just, I mean? And it honestly just, like, deflates her character. Like, I don't know.
It kills the entire angle, because then none of it makes sense anymore.
Like, just picture, like, Attitude Era, and Vince at the beginning is like, well, Stone Cold, you gotta say you're sorry. And then they spend the entire episode, will Stone Cold say that he's sorry? It's like, no, come on. It doesn't work.
He would say, I'm sorry.
And then give him a stunner.
Well, no, he would say, I'm sorry that I just kicked your ass. And then he would kick his ass.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing.
Why not do that with her? Just, like, take template of McMahon versus Austin and just apply it over top of this. Why
because
they got...
That's why.
That
answers your question.
It's just so, like, who thought that was a good idea? And I know you're saying that the injury thing, like, makes sense, but even that just seems really just hokey in a way.
But that still plays into the idea that they are faces, because they've been playing themselves as faces. Shane is still a face, right? Until he's
teaming with the Miz. Doesn't that automatically make him a heel to you?
Well, to me, but they're playing him as face, which we'll talk about on SmackDown. They've been playing them as faces until now. Suddenly, all the McMahons except Shane are heel after tonight.
Yeah,
it just doesn't make any. I guess it only makes sense in the sense that turning them face didn't make sense. So in that sense, it makes sense, but in the real sense, it doesn't make any sense.
They just need to put a little bit of an edge to it. I'm not talking like Attitude Era kind of stuff, but just don't make it so lame and hokey. Oh, you got to say you're sorry. I just don't.
And again, if you're going to do the I'm sorry thing, then do the immediate reply.
Yes. Don't drag it out.
Because the whole night you're hearing it. Yeah, because you're going to sit there and go, well, of course she is, because she wants to be in the match, but then she'll attack him afterwards or something. Like, you just know it's not going to end with just saying, I'm sorry.
And then they recap it every time they come back from commercial break. Michael Cole's got to be like, well, in case you missed it, Becky Lynch has got to say, I'm sorry.
Right, and then they did it again at the beginning of SmackDown on Tuesday. So. All right, so anyway, we got next we had Nia Jax and Tamina against Bayley and Sasha and the Riot Squad. to see who has to enter the Elimination Chamber match first. So it's basically 3 corners tag match. You can tag anyone from any team in, but if whatever person gets pinned, their team has to start the Elimination Chamber match against the losers of a similar match on SmackDown. And I mean, it was what it was. It was nothing special. I think the biggest thing was, though, that for me, the Riot Squad really looked weak. Like, of the 3 teams, they looked like the less cohesive of the teams. And maybe that's just because they haven't, been teamed together as long, whereas Nia Jax and Tamina have probably, been backstage buddies for, several years.
Right.
Also, Tamina looks like she's 55 years old now.
Tamina is scary.
Like, I don't know what happened. She didn't look like that 5 years ago. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably just their way. It's they make her hair like poof out more, and I think it's just something with the makeup. But yeah, I totally agree. But she's scary looking. Like nope.
So
I wouldn't mess with her.
Well, and anyway, what it came down to was Nia Jax and Bayley at the end. So the Riot Squad was even pushed to the side towards the end of the match. And Nia Jax got the pin on Bayley, so Bayley and Sasha Banks have to start the Elimination Chamber match.
I guess it makes sense because out of everyone involved, those 2 seem to be like the most capable of starting that and trying to get the crowd behind it. Yeah,
well, and also I think they're most likely considered the favorites to win. And I mean that like in an odds sense, not necessarily from crowd standpoint, but you look at the teams and it's most likely the cousin of Snoop Dogg and her friend. They can win the titles and then they can do a podcast and stuff and it becomes a thing, right?
Yeah.
So I just see that as being a thing. All right. Let's see. Backstage, we got Elias, Becky Lynch walking past Elias because you have to. Yeah. So Elias is about to perform, but then Becky's on the screen talking to Finn Balor. They do a little backstage, blah, 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 blah thing. And he tells her that she needs to apologize. Then they went, let's see what, was it back to Elias? He's about to perform again. And then Seth Rollins came on the screen and he did his video package. And then they went back to Elias and he's about to perform. And then the Lucha House Party came out.
Elias, that's his thing. He gets interrupted just like I'm about to with the dogs here in roughly like 30 seconds.
Well, so you can hear the car pulled up?
No, well, she texts me and she's like, I'm in here. And I'm like, all right.
Did you hear the horseshoes clanging outside as she's walking up to the door?
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Well, you got to mute yourself or whatever. So I'll just kind of run through this, but so Lucha House Party comes out. They had a fun little segment. I mean, ultimately it was stupid. It was nothing, but it was what it was. And
Kalisto can play guitar.
Yeah, really, so it turns out he said that he wanted to perform for the WWE universe just like Elias does, and he wanted to have a chance. And so Elias, of course, cocky heel, sure, go ahead, take the guitar. This guy can't do anything. And then Kalisto sits down and he's like, playing something, and everybody's like, wow, he can actually play. And so Elias, suddenly he's happy. He's like, oh, wow, you're real good. Let's play together. Of course, it's a false. He grabs the other guitar and whacks it over Kalisto, and that was it. So and the thing was, it didn't like lead to a match, or it didn't lead to the other members of Lucha House Party attacking Elias or whatever. It's just like he hit Kalisto and he was out, and that was it. It was over.
Yeah,
so I'm not really sure like what it set up for. Maybe just like next week they'll be like, now he's got to fight all 3 members of Lucha House Party for the next 3 weeks, and they can that's something for Elias to do for a month until they've got something else for him. Who knows? But it was just kind of dumb. Oh, I heard a dog. All right, we had intercontinental. I keep wanting to say intercontinental, and that's not the right word. It's intercontinental, and I know that, but I just couldn't say it. Intercontinental champion match, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. No, not Drew McIntyre. No, Bobby Lashley was ringside. I'm sorry. It was Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre. Bobby Lashley came out first.
Yeah.
To watch them. But he wasn't in the match because that was another thing that threw me off. Is like I'm watching this going, oh, okay, so they're going to do a match with Bobby Lashley, and I hate when they do these things. They don't really say, he doesn't come out and get on the mic and he's like, hey, there's this match coming and I'm going to scout it because one of these guys, if they win, they get a shot at me. So I'm going to make sure, whatever, you can cut some sort of promo. They don't do that. He just kind of walks out. And I think they like went to commercial or something. You come back and he's just sitting in a chair. And you're like, oh, well, that was weird. Like, what was that about? So then they had Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre. So, of course, we've seen, though, Lashley and McIntyre have been on the same page for the last couple weeks. So, of course, it turns into big schmoz. Lashley gets involved, so there's a disqualification. And then Kurt Angle comes running out. And then Corbin Burnson comes running out. And then we finally got Strowman coming out. And Nathan is asleep because this was a death segment.
This segment, I think, altogether ran for what, like 41 minutes. I think someone timed it on Reddit.
Because then it went in, because that whole match like fell apart and became a big schmoz, and you're like, okay, whatever. Then get him out of the ring and let's move on. And instead, it went to an actual 6-man match with Strowman, Balor, and Angle versus Corbin, McIntyre, and Lashley. And that match went on for like 6 days because they wrapped it up. They got
that's the worst part of the whole
Bobby
thing.
Lashley pinned Finn Balor. Finn Balor got his foot on the ropes, but the ref didn't see it, and you're like, well, at least it's over. And then a second referee came out. I'm like, what?
How
and
convenient.
The referee goes, no, they do the referee thing where they talk with their hands.
Why don't they just show the replay of it on the Titantron? Wouldn't that just like make it easier?
Get away with anything in wrestling though, because then anytime something happens, you've got the video review. There's so much stuff in wrestling that only works because someone cheats, and so the moment that you have, and see that's why this makes no sense, because if you're in a championship match or you're in some sort of match with a stipulation that leads to something important, and they send out the second ref, it makes sense. Because it's for the title, and you have to dignify the title. So something there's some sort of cheating, or the twin brother comes out from underneath the ring, takes his place, or something like that. You have the second referee come down to clear up the confusion because you're protecting the title. You're protecting whatever the stipulation is that they're fighting for. This was not for a stipulation. This was not for number one contender to the title. This was not for whoever comes first in the Royal Rumble. This was not for anything. They still sent out a second referee to clear the confusion because
it was convenient.
Because they needed to kill another 20 minutes or whatever
terrible.
It was.
So that probably that was probably what, at least an hour, if not over, of TV time, right?
Yeah, but I mean, with all the commercials and everything, because I mean, we got Lashley came out, and then I think they went to a commercial, and then they came back, and they had Finn Balor and McIntyre come out, and then they had their match, and they went to a commercial, and then they continued the match, and then they had the DQ, and then they had the schmoz, and then they went to a commercial, and then they came back, and then they had the match, and then they went to commercial, and then they came back to continue the match.
God.
And then it was a false finish, and I think they went to commercial again.
Why did Vince think that was a good idea? To me, it would seem like Vince would just hate something like that. I
don't know if he thought it was necessarily a good idea, or if it was more along the lines of, we have nothing else and we need to fill another 40 minutes. Like maybe there was something else they were planning to do and somebody got hurt, or they realized at the last moment they wanted to change the storyline for somebody. So whatever match they were going to do suddenly wasn't going to work. And so as a last minute audible, they were like, okay, that big match you do at the end of Raw, after the cameras turn off, or you've been doing at the house shows, we're just going to throw that in here to fill the time. And my guess would be that that's along the lines of what it was. So it went on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And basically, Strowman grabbed Lashley, hit him with the power slam. Finn Balor hit him with the coup de grace, or the coup de grace.
The announcers can't figure out what they want to call it sometimes.
Well, I can tell you, it's not coup de grace. I can tell you that.
Coup de grace.
But so they got it on Lashley, so they went over. So the good guys won. So if the good guys won, this is over, right? Like, that's the end. Like, we don't ever have to see a matchup between these guys again, right? They can stop now.
No, next week more tag matches.
So, like I said, this is the part where I started to die on the inside. Like this was the part where I start like scrolling through my phone. Like I was talking last week, how I try to have my laptop open and I'm taking notes and I'm trying not to be distracted by other stuff. And this is the point where it's like the laptop's sitting there and I've got my phone and I'm like checking, memes on Reddit and like, yeah, okay, that match is still going.
I knew it was it.
And so it was it was so bad that it did start to kill me on SmackDown, because getting into the show on SmackDown, it was just so hard. Like this is where it feels long. Like this is where, like when I was getting ready to watch SmackDown and I went to turn it on, and even though it was like 24 hours later that I went to watch it, I'm still sitting there going, oh my gosh, how much time am I going to give away to this show? Like this is my life. Like I've got other things I can do here.
Here's what I did this week. Honestly, there is a channel on YouTube that they post the videos of Raw and SmackDown, but and it goes through the show, but it clips it to where like it skips ahead of itself, but you still see everything that happens. And so I watched the Raw one, that's about 24 minutes. And I watched the SmackDown one. I think that was about 13 or 15. I'm like, all right, I saw everything that happened as it did, but I think it just clipped out a lot of just the boring parts in the segments, like the schmoz that lasted an hour on Raw. I saw all of that, but I saw it in about a span of 10 minutes instead of 60 days. Yeah,
there was a time when I didn't have cable for sure. Or no, I had cable, but I didn't. WWE, like what was it? They moved to Pop, or TNN became Pop or whatever, and Pop like moved off of the cable package I had at the time, and so there was like this 3 or 4 month period until they moved it back into my package or whatever. So I didn't have Raw, so I would just download it. Because I wanted to watch it and I had no other way to watch it. So I would download it, but some of them were pretty bad. So I'm watching them in VLC and I would watch them at like 4 times speed or 3 times speed. So you still get the audio and you can hear people talking like chipmunks, whatever, but it's just like speeding through the show and some of those segments, because it was just like, oh my God.
You're going to have to go back to that, Dirt. I feel like this is the only way, because dude, I'm sorry. You're a trooper for trying to just sit there and watch all 3 hours of Raw. You really are. In its entirety, no less.
Although I will say that they immediately afterwards, they did a video segment with Kevin Owens that was awesome. And it was awesome because it was nothing special. Yeah. So Kevin Owens is coming back as a face. So he's been gone long enough that now that he's coming back, people who had cheered for him because he was a good talent are now going to be allowed to cheer for him because he's going to be a nice guy. So they showed him basically like a friend of his was filming him on his phone or whatever. And he's like, I've been rehabilitating and getting over this injury, which is always a babyface thing that you say and you do. Yep. And he's like, I'm with my wife and kids and, we've been spending some time together, but I'm getting ready to come back and I'm getting ready to, come back and perform for you guys and whatever. Huge babyface promo. And they're in a bowling alley and they're having family time. And it's just him and the wife and the kids, and they're just laughing and having fun. And he grabs the ball and he goes to bowl, and it goes straight in the gutter. And he just turns around. And he's like, wait, that one doesn't count. That one doesn't count. Everybody starts laughing, and they're just having this good time. And it was just like in the span of like this 2 minutes or whatever it was, anybody who remembered Kevin Owens and saw Kevin Owens before, suddenly it was just like giant babyface Kevin Owens. He's coming back and he's a nice guy, family man, kid's wife, can joke around with bowling a gutter ball. Ha ha ha, great guy. Yeah. I'm so happy that
I can see Vince now. I can see Vince. He's a goofball. We're gonna bring back, he's a Funkasaurus. And he's gonna make him start dancing and everything. Okay, well, I'm calling it now. They're gonna make him goofy.
Although Funkasaurus makes more money now running his own website and making all those appearances on Greg Gutfield's show. So whatever, it might not be a bad thing in the long run.
Oh yeah, I forgot he does like hop on those shows.
Who knew that the Funkasaurus was actually like brilliant? You know what I mean? It's like you look at that guy and he's actually really smart. He's
there's a few of them.
Sociologist. Like, who knew? Wow.
It's like a lot of people looked at Kane. They're like, oh wow, he actually speaks with like intelligence. Seems like he knows what he's doing. Yeah.
All right. What do we have now? We had Becky Lynch and Charlie Caruso in the back, and
more like, are you gonna say you're sorry? I don't know.
And why are you going to take this match away from the fans with Ronda Rousey? And she just gets mad and walks away. All right. Let's see. We had Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross. And this was the match that is supposed to set you up for Riott being in the match at Elimination Chamber. So this was the one to, show her skills and whatever. So they put her up against Abyss, and it was fine. But in the middle of this match, though, they cut to the back, and it's Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch, and they get in each other's faces. And at first, they do the thing like on SmackDown when they go to commercial, where they have like what's going on in the ring up there, and they do the commercial in the big box. So they kind of did that first, where they put the match up there, and then had the two facing off, and then they just flipped and made it full screen.
Yeah.
And the match didn't matter anymore.
That's to me, that I feel like that's just super disrespectful to whoever's trying to perform in the ring, because it's the video's also playing for the crowd. So
so no one's watching the match.
And that doesn't make sense. So why are they going to be like wrestling and then like hear that and just like continue wrestling and not even bother to like at least acknowledge it?
Well, what themselves. It always reminds me of the two guys who were wrestling the match on Nitro when Razor Ramon walked out of the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like Razor Ramon jumps over the guardrail, grabs a microphone, steps in the ring, and the two guys just like stop and
then go through the ropes and then
and leave.
Yeah.
It's like you were having a match. Like you were competing. If at least wait until the match is over for him to jump in and they have a reason to leave, or they should confront him as they would a fan who jumps over the rail and comes in the ring.
And then he beats him up.
And
he goes into his promo. Yeah,
exactly. Like it always reminds me of that situation. It's always like you guys are not good enough to even get like the full attention of what's going on. We're just gonna throw away everything that we're working on because it really doesn't matter.
And what does that? I guess what does that say too? Like with Ruby Riott going forward with Ronda Rousey, it's like, all right, well, clearly, if you're going to interrupt her with a backstage segment, then obviously I shouldn't pay attention to any of her matches, right?
Like the only thing that can happen is the Riott Squad is going to have to interfere in the match. I mean, obviously, that's the only wild card that she has that could even lead to something. And even that, maybe Becky Lynch gets involved. I mean, that's a possibility too. So I mean, but outside interference is the only way that Ruby Riott would even have any sort of odds on getting the title. And you can see right here that she's just a nobody, and it doesn't matter.
Or maybe they're going to fool us, and maybe Ruby Riott will win the title at Elimination Chamber.
Ooh, no, I don't. And then we have a 4-way at WrestleMania.
And then like Charlotte or Becky.
Charlotte and Ruby Riott can have a match, and then Becky and Ronda can still have a match non-title.
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
We'll get into some theories or something after we get through the recap. We'll go over the Elimination Chamber card real quick.
Maybe. If we can make it that far. All right.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins. Oh, they go to commercial. Seth Rollins comes back. The fans are chanting, "Burn it down, burn it down." He talked about his successes. He talked about winning the Royal Rumble. He's talking about WrestleMania. He talked about how he received 6 F5s from Brock Lesnar. And he said 6 F5s is really painful. And he said, but the good news is I took 6 F5s. The point being that he's still there. Like it didn't destroy him. It hurt and it sucked, but he's still alive and he's still fighting, just to show he still has a chance. He's still, he's still a contender. He's still in it, even though he took all that punishment. Paul Heyman then interrupts Heyman comes out, teases that Lesnar's there, but of course he's not. He goes on and on doing the standard Paul Heyman legal speak promo.
Yeah, which is a shame because Paul Heyman he's always been fantastic at promos. I hate the fact that he's just sort of like, here's the same thing. I'm just going to keep saying the same promo every time I come out. It's sort of sucks for me as a fan of his.
Right. And some people, though, look at it like the same way they would look at the entrance for DX. You know, when you have Road Dogg come down and do the spiel, and it's the exact same every single time.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's easier for crowd participation.
Paul Heyman to come out and do the Paul Heyman promo as he's not his manager, he's his
advocate.
Yeah, I wanted to say ambassador, and I knew that was wrong.
What were you calling the Intercontinental title again?
The Intercontinental is what I kept wanting to say.
That'll be the women's version of the championship when they get a mid-card belt as well.
No, that may be the AEW mid-card championship.
There you go.
The Intercontinental champion. The Texarkana Intercontinental champion. All right.
You know what? Book it. That's amazing.
All right. So then Heyman left, and Dean Ambrose came out, and Dean Ambrose comes down to the ring, and the commentary guys are like, Michael Cole is like, these two were brothers until Dean Ambrose turned his back on his Shield brother and sold him out. And you're like,
just in case you started watching tonight.
Well, it's like, well, first of all, okay, true, that happened. But there was kind of something that happened before that where Seth Rollins actually turned on the other guys in the Shield.
Yeah, they seem to gloss over that a lot, don't they?
Yeah, because if it didn't happen within the last year and a half, it didn't happen.
Seth turned first, which ultimately led to Dean turning. But yeah, that segment.
Did Hand shoot first? Did Seth turn first? We don't know. It doesn't matter. Like at this point, but if you go back and CGI the footage, do it happen?
But I guess this kind of is one of the noteworthy things in regards to the news. But supposedly Dean Ambrose, what he did was not what was on paper for him to do. He was supposed to do something else entirely, and instead just said what he said, and that was it.
Well, I mean, he's leaving, so
he's leaving. What are they gonna do? Fire him? He doesn't care.
I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I hadn't heard that, so I'll have to see. But we did get Dean Ambrose versus EC3. And they did do it, with EC3 being a new talent and Ambrose being the established talent. They had EC3 look powerful, but make a rookie mistake.
Yeah.
So they just didn't think that. Well, go ahead.
Why didn't they do that last week? That would have been smarter. But the thing I was going to say was Dean Ambrose said to Seth Rollins, he was basically just slay the beast.
Oh yeah. He just
I'm like, is he face again? Like, what is happening here? I don't. But because Elias was face, Elias was face, and now it's like, no, you're heel again, and now it's just face? Supposedly for like a few weeks or a month or so, like he was doing some face stuff, and now he's heel again. So with Ambrose, it's like, all right, he's heel, and they messed that up real bad. And now he's like quasi. It doesn't matter. He's
all right. Now I gotta see if I can find something out of there. More about this because this is weird. But I mean, when you watch that segment, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like, well, if that's not what he was supposed to do, then okay, I understand it a little bit more. But then at the other hand, what was he supposed to do? And I'm trying to see. I don't know. If you find the link to that, let me know. I'd be interested in seeing if I can find out some more information on that.
I will look for it right now.
That is weird. Okay, so anyway, back to Raw. So EC3 basically makes a rookie mistake. The veteran is just able to get the upper hand, gets a quick roll up, gets a pin. And so they did actually have shots of EC3 afterwards, like just sitting in the corner, leaning against the turnbuckle, like thinking about what happened, like that was quick. It came out of nowhere. I wasn't prepared, as if EC3 was a guy who's never wrestled before, right? Because anything that happens in another promotion doesn't matter. They'll talk about NXT a little bit, But they don't always bring up who the characters were.
I always hate that. It's like anytime there's been an established guy, like the Indies, Japan, whatever, 10 years, and they finally transition over. They're like, yeah, this rookie, but he's got a lot of experience. I always hated that.
Well, it's like Sting. It's like when Sting made his big return, and they were like, Sting, who was one of the head guys of WCW, has finally returned. It's like, finally returned?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a finally returned. I think he's been returned for about a decade in another company.
Yeah.
But of course they just don't. Whatever.
Yeah. I messaged that to you, but I'll just go ahead and read on the latest Wrestling Observer. Meltzer said that there was more planned for Ambrose Rollins exchange, that Ambrose was apparently supposed to incorporate more about the Shield and Roman Reigns, and Ambrose basically just like shortened that to the brief Slay the Beast, because at this point I bet Ambrose was just like, I don't want to bring up Roman because that's just gonna, like, he's off with the leukemia thing, and I don't know. It's
and he
made the right call with
weeks ago, didn't they? They bring it up last week or 2 weeks ago or something. They said something about Roman Reigns, and it was just kind of like weird.
Yeah. Got to keep them in the thoughts of everybody, because I hate that too. They act like their fan base has an attention span of like a mosquito.
Well, I mean, to be fair, by the time you get to the third or fourth or fifth hour of WWE programming,
you kind of, I guess, yeah.
Like this whole segments I don't remember very well, so so there is that to keep in mind.
That's from boredom. That's not like,
well, who knows?
Yeah,
a lot of things. Well, yesterday when I was doing the thing when I was talking about Takeover, I couldn't remember Seth Rollins' name. I kept calling him Tyler Black because I couldn't remember Seth Rollins, and Tyler Black is the name that he used, in ROH. 8 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. He hasn't used that name, since he appeared in like OVW or whatever, or a Florida Championship or wherever it was that he started his WWE training. And yet I was sitting there going, like what is that dude's name?
It's rotting your brain, man.
I know it's
what are you going to be
Black.
like by the time we get to WrestleMania?
Oh, who knows? I don't know. I'm going to be waiting for Andre and Hogan in the main event. Who knows? It'll be one of those things. Like Warrior coming out with the championship at this one. I don't remember.
Yeah. Man.
All right.
We're still not done with Raw yet.
No, we're still not. So we had Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch backstage, and Alexa Bliss said, don't apologize, because then you don't get to be in the match, and then there's a chance that I get to take your place, because if you do apologize, then you're just a sellout, and so don't be a sellout and let me replace you. And,
like, what's the point of this? God, they really...
it's just they got to fill... another couple minutes, so they throw it.
Give Becky Lynch the stunner as a finisher. She's got a submission. Just give her the stunner, and just to have her stun people, have her stun Triple H, and that would be fun, right? I think that would be entertaining if it's just like, you got to apologize, stunner, boom, crowd would love it.
I don't know.
She's Irish, and you think Irish alcohol, beer, bring the beer truck back, spray them down with beer, just rehash all this stuff. They'll love it. That's what wrestling's all about, right? You take ideas after a period of time, redo them.
Yeah, but I mean, because she's doing the man thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I want her to take something from Ric Flair, but of course Charlotte already does the figure 4, which she does the figure 8.
Nature Boy gimmick.
Like there's
pole match.
Some other, well, no, I'm not saying that, but a lot of guys, they have like a signature move and a finisher, right?
Yeah.
And so like I'm trying to think, like, does Ric Flair have any other, the figure 4 is his finisher, but does he have a signature other than just chopping a guy and shouting woo?
The Flair flop.
Yeah, it's not really a finisher though.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's entertaining every time. Don't get me wrong.
Right. I always love the Flair flop.
Yeah. Well, although the one time, what was it? He did the flop. He popped back up. He went to the other turnbuckle, flopped to the outside, walked along the apron, flopped back in, and then fell in the middle of the ring and got pinned. And I remember watching that one time and being like, that is the dumbest, most awesome thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
All right. We had a tag match. We had Revival against Rude and Gable for the tag team champions. And this was actually a good match. Like this one,
you give the Revival 15-20 minutes, they will make it good. They are that good of a team.
They did commercial break right in the middle of it, though. So of course, it's Raw. They have to do that. But it was a great match. Like I love Rude and Gable, so like I also like the Revival. So it's one of those where you're watching and you're like, yay! They won. They lost. Like yay! Oh, like I was kind of torn by it. You know, it's like the two great teams and they had a great match, and it's almost like that should have been a pay-per-view thing, and maybe they'll do a pay-per-view rematch or something. But
I'm sure they will. Kickoff show.
Yeah, great at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. But it was a great match. They cut to the back and they had Charlie back there interviewing them. And they did refer to her as Charles, which I thought was interesting. And then they did mention, though, which I thought was interesting, that we've been telling ourselves we're the greatest team. We've been saying this for 27 years. And I thought, oops, you can't say that because you just started wrestling 6 years ago in the WWE lineage. So, none of that other stuff counts, like we just talked about.
Yeah. I'm happy for him. But it's also funny. It's like, all right, request your release a month ago. Now you're champions. Maybe that's the way to go.
Right? We talked about that. We said that very well could be, the thing to them to make them stay.
But what's it setting up for? Because their contracts haven't expired yet. They're champions, yeah, but they also have that background thing with Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. Maybe Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder take the titles off of them, and Kurt Hawkins gets that win, and the Revival are still out. Like, see where that goes.
Possible. I mean, that could be what they do with them out the door.
But give the Revival time. That's the thing. Like with some of these guys, if you put them out there in a throwaway 3-4 minute match, they're not going to be able to impress anybody. But if you do it and give them time, look what they can do. Like the Revival are a fantastic throwback tag team that honestly, if they're smart, they got the titles now, do something with that.
Yeah.
Make the tag titles mean something. I honestly, at this point,
I don't see them allowed, because again, they wouldn't let them out of their contract. They want to keep them through the contract, and they are trying to beef up tag teams because AEW said that they were going to push on tag teams. So I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. They're probably given the titles. They'll have a couple opportunities to show that they can do great matches. And as long as they have great matches, then I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. I honestly, at this point, though, think that they need to, with the women's tag division only having that one set of tag titles, they need to do the same thing for the men. That way there's more opportunities for fresh matchups. Like, yes, they have a lot of tag teams, but with the way that they're writing TV, it doesn't seem like there are that many teams still. So they need to.
That's why they forced together some teams like
Nakamura
and Rusev.
Mm-hmm.
So they can have another team.
Just make one tag belt and just have them cross shows. I feel that would be the smartest thing to do.
Or you have the Universal Tag Champions that go between the two shows. So you've got your mid-level tag belts and then your top-level tag, just like, was it IWGP had like the 6-man tag?
Don't give them ideas, dude. Please don't give them ideas. That's just, there's too many titles. There's too many damn belts. Now, oh, wait, you can't call them belts because Vince is like, that's what holds up your pants. It's like, no, it's...
Well, and he's never been to South Central. South Central, there are no belts holding up.
There's too many titles. Way too many titles.
All right. So then we got our final segment. Becky Lynch came out.
Oh, hey, we're finally here. We've arrived.
We got our big grand finale. Will she say I'm sorry? She said I'm sorry. I mean, there was 10 minutes of talking before they got to it, but eventually she goes, yes, I'm sorry. She goes, but I don't trust either of you. Like, if that's what I have to say to get my match, fine. I'm sorry, but I don't trust you guys. I still don't believe you want me in this match. So there better not be any interference. There better not be any problems. And Triple H and Stephanie are just like, no, match is on. You're good. Goodbye. And they leave. And she's just like, wait, is that it? And they're just like, and Triple H, I think, even got on the mic one last time. And he's like, yeah, that's it. Set down the mic and they leave. And they're just gone. And she's like, well, okay, great. All right, then. That was really easy. Which, of course, it's not going to be. Because then Rousey came out first and gets in her face, and then Vince McMahon comes out, and Vince says, "Look, they accepted your apology. I don't accept your apology. You're still suspended. You're suspended for 60 days, and that ends 5 days after WrestleMania, so you can't be in WrestleMania. So I'm going to replace you in this match." Charlotte Flair's music hits, Charlotte comes out, and now she gets the title match at WrestleMania.
I mean, obviously we're leading up to a triple threat, but
right.
still.
Which, again, this was the story that we heard 3 weeks ago, that it was going to be a triple threat. And, it's still rolling towards that triple threat.
Ugh, God.
I'll give them credit, because at least the Vince spot, it makes more sense in setting up the three-way than going through the whole, like, you must apologize thing. It would have been better if the reason why he didn't allow her in the match was because she didn't see the WWE doctors. Like, if Stephanie and Hunter had been like, you didn't see our doctors, you went and saw your doctors, but it's okay, we'll take it and we'll allow you to be in the match. And then Vince were to come out and say, no, I run this company, I still own it, they have to see our doctors, she didn't do it, so therefore she's out. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, how about that?
But instead they did the whole apology thing, which was dumb.
TV writers, man. Yeah. TV writers.
So anyway, there you go. That was the end of the show.
That's Raw. Wow. Just so many things spread out that didn't need to be. Period.
Again, I really started to hate wrestling during that show.
Started to hate yourself.
It's starting to get like I'm sitting there going, man, I'm not sure I'm friends with Nathan anymore.
Hey, wait. Yeah, sure. I just merely threw out the idea. You could have said no, and now you're you're like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. So that's all on you now.
No. Here's the reason, because you pretended to be my friend, and you were nice. You're like, I'll take over the Fans of Power stuff, so you don't have to mess with that anymore.
But in return,
I'm your pal. And then you're like, hey man, you know so much about wrestling. Let's do a wrestling podcast. It'll be it'll just be like a nice thing. It'd be so great, man. Come on. And then I have to sit through this garbage.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
All right,
I'm telling you, man, condensed. You just got to watch the condensed versions of these shows. I think you'll be a lot better.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
even still watching those, I'm like, yeah, this is still too long.
The funny thing is, I do have Hulu, because they did the promotion last year where if you signed up, I think it was Black Friday, you got 1 year at 99 cents a month.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm paying 99 cents a month to have it through November. So it's like, okay, sure. That's worth it to have Hulu. Hulu for $7.99 is not worth it, but for 99 cents, it's worth it. So Raw and SmackDown actually are on my list of things that it pulls up in my feed, but I just hate Hulu. Because every time I go in to watch something, they always throw other garbage in your list. They're like, yeah. Oh, you like comedies. Here's 12 hours of Modern Family. It's like, no, stop. Like, what?
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. I don't mind Hulu just because we don't have cable, so that is a good way to catch up on any TV shows that we're interested in.
Well, and we use YouTube TV, so all of our TV streams.
Yeah, I remember you plugging that to me.
Yeah,
too.
you just add the show, and it brings up all the video on demand and all the DVR'd ones, and puts them in one big library, and you have this huge library of your own shows. It's great.
I might have to look into that.
The other great thing is you can customize the live TV channels, so like you can even turn stuff off. It's like, Bravo. Click, I never see it again in my lineup. Entertainment Network, click, I never see it in my lineup.
All right.
I get like 4 Major League Baseball channels and like 6 college sports channels, and it's like click. They don't show up in my feed. It's great. All right, so anyway, and then you can move them around. So I've got the good sports channels at the top, and anyway.
What are the good sports channels?
The good sports channels are FS1, FS2, the FS regionals, and then we got NBC Sports and the Comcast regionals. And then under those, I'll throw the TNT and TBS because they get some good sports every once in a while.
I know that your main
and
thing
the ESPNs I'll throw in there. Yeah,
your main thing is soccer, but what else?
And then I also subscribe to the Fox Soccer channel. And the Fox Soccer Channel also shows Australian rules football, which is it's like live action Quidditch played on a cricket ground. It's like bizarre. It is the craziest thing you've ever seen, and I love it. It is just the most bizarre sport. And then I get beIN Sports. That's more soccer. The package I get beIN Sports in through Sling, like I said, it's like $5 a month. But I also get cricket, so I get 2 cricket channels with the beIN Sports international sports package.
Cricket, man. We were talking about that before we started. I'm like, that's just kind of odd.
It's like I got into sports, like I had a midlife crisis, and I got into sports, and the sports I get into are none of the sports anyone in this country watches. It's like I watch the Australian rules football that nobody outside of Australia watches, cricket, which everybody in the like United Kingdom network, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, India, Pakistan, like it's played in all those places, but nowhere else in the world does anybody seem to care about it. And then I watch soccer, which is like the one sport nobody in America, will like. Oh, soccer!
And until the World Cup comes around, then they care.
Yeah, but then it's always like, well, it's my people. Like I'm, my great grandfather came from Greece, so I got to cheer for Greece. Even though they're a terrible team and they're never going to get anywhere. But it's just one of those things. Like suddenly everybody has a heritage, right? It's like for 3.5 years, everyone's just like, I'm American. I don't care. It's like, well, your great grandfather came from France. Yeah, well, I don't like cheese, so get out of my face. And then for that, little window of the World Cup, you're like, "Viva la France!" Because that's where your peeps came from. I don't know. It's weird. I was still rooting for Belgium and Brazil, and I don't have relatives from either of those countries. So
right on.
All right, Smackdown. They opened with the graphic for Pedro Morales, but they didn't actually do any sort of video on him or anything like that, even though they have it available on their YouTube channel. Which
maybe they'll do it for the chamber. Maybe it's a thing where there wasn't enough time. Oh, there we go.
All right, these are the ones that are working in full color. So these green ones I'm going to have to return. They just came like 2 days ago, and the button is already like sticking and not working right. So we're going to have to return these green ones.
I feel like I need a gimmick. I need to get me a gimmick to have here on the show. I mean, other than my crappy.
Other than being the Nard Dog?
The Nard Dog and having this beefcake figure from WrestleMania 9.
You know what you need is the Brutus Beefcake face mask. You can just wear that during the podcast. Like maybe you can see if Joe can make you one or something.
Yeah, there we go. Or I just anybody out there in the Fans of Power or Beyond Retro community, if they want to just make me a beefcake mask out of foam or something and send it in the mail.
Wasn't he also the
Disciple?
Like the Yeti or the Abominable Snowman or
the Zodiac.
Was that the one where? Well, no, there was one where he came out. And he was all wrapped up in bandages. Like
he was the Zodiac. It was like black and white, like striped. He looked like a zebra.
Yeah, he had the face paint. Like I remember that. But I thought he was one of those guys who was
not the Yeti. He was not the Yeti. As Shivani
the big bad
famously called it. Oh yeah, he was the booty man. God, and Kimberly was his manager, and then DDP like swiped her away from him. Yeah, the booty man. God, Beefcake sucks. He's the worst.
Baron Beefcake, Big Brother Booty, the Booty Man, Brother Brutai, Horse, Brutus Beefcake, the Butcher, the Clipmaster, the Disciple, Dizzy Hogan, Ed Boulder, Eddie Hogan, the Mariner, the Man with No Name, and the Zodiac.
Man, a lot of those are like Hogan related. I know they're best buds, which is the only reason he got on half of the shows that he did, because he has no talent. The Disciple, man. You remember how crappy the Disciple was? Yeah, here he is, brother, the Disciple. And then like he hung out with Warrior, with the One Warrior Nation. And man, 98 WCW was you could just see it. Even then, even back then, I was like, oh man, this is not good. And I was a WCW guy. I've always preferred like NWA, WCW over the Titans of WWF. And you could just see it. You see it slipping away. I'm like, they're just letting it. The NWO had to stop. Anyway, Smackdown. We talked about beefcake entirely too much on this show today.
Sometimes the world needs a little more beefcake. Beefcake.
See, you have your having to sit through these shows, and I have this brief conversation. No, I have this brief conversation about beefcake, and I feel like that feels the same to me.
Oh, it's not. It's totally not. You definitely win out on this one. All right. We go to SmackDown. We got the last 5 minutes of Raw shown on the big screen. We had Charlotte come down. Charlotte got booed out of the building. She is going to win the match. She, played with the crowd. Like the crowd would like chant things, chanting for Becky. So she would chant for Becky to like get them to stop. And, they would chant whatever. And she would, just whatever, kind of keep them going. She said she was going to dedicate her main event victory at WrestleMania to the memory of Becky Lynch, I think is what she said. And she said she was going to sit. Oh, here's where it is. Okay. She said she was going to be in the front row, sitting there for the main event with Ruby Riott versus Ronda Rousey at Elimination Chamber.
Your brain's just turning to mush now.
There's a possibility she might get involved in the match there, because then once you watch SmackDown, she's kind of hinting that she's going to be ringside, so maybe she's going to get involved in the match.
I don't know. I kind of like the idea of maybe like have them interfere, have Ruby Riott win the match and the title, but don't let her title reign really last. Maybe be like a day or something, but be away. Do something to have it to where people want to be intrigued to want to tune in to Raw the next night somehow.
The only thing I could really see working is if they do a dusty finish, where if the Riott Squad gets involved, Becky gets involved, Charlotte gets involved, giant schmoz, referee is knocked out, second referee runs down, Ronda Rousey gets knocked out somehow by, being ganged up on by everybody or whatever, hits by a chair or something. She's out. Second referee counts the pin. Ruby Riott wins. She gets the title. But then the next night on Raw, they go, there was too much interference.
You have to apologize.
You have to apologize. Or they do some sort of gauntlet match or some sort of
because we still have Fastlane as well, right?
After this? Oh my gosh.
So maybe you can just set something up for Fastlane and just do it that way, right? Yeah, there we go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Hey, we only got a month and a half. It's fine. When is WrestleMania? Is it still at the beginning?
Time. It's so far out I can't even see it. Oh my gosh. All right, well then they can set up for whatever match at Fastlane. But yeah, like that's the only way I could see it happening is if they do a dusty finish where they come back on Raw Monday and they strip her of the title, they take it back and they say, okay, at Fastlane we're going to do whatever to crown who will be the actual champion and go into the match at WrestleMania, and then maybe for whatever happens there, they set up the three-way. So
that just seems too convoluted. Really, they just need to. I don't know. Probably just make it short and sweet and build it up to that three-way. I feel like that's all.
Sorry, my son needed something there.
So. Oh no, yeah, you're good.
All right, because we have gone over our allotted time here.
Oh yeah, of course we have.
Because my idea that this show would take an hour was way wrong. So wrong.
Yeah.
All right. What do we have here? We had Carmella and Naomi against Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. And against the Iconics. So they had this was the other match to see who's going to
start against
Sasha. So we already know it's going to be Sasha and Bayley, right? So then we had this match, and we had actually I will say this. Carmella has come a very long way in the last 3 years.
I would agree with that.
Because she was one of those, when they first debuted her on Raw, she was not ready. She was nowhere near ready, but they needed her to be with Enzo and Cass to build up that little group, because that was a good investment. And so they brought her up.
I thought she's always been on SmackDown. I don't think they ever put her with Enzo and Cass, did they? I always thought she was just solo.
No, she came out with them.
Oh,
yeah, because she got pulled in a superstar shakeup. she got pulled to SmackDown away from them, and they stayed on Raw, I think. Or one of them went to SmackDown and one.
I don't know.
I don't remember. Yeah, but it was one of those.
Point
things.
is, she's better off. But who would have thought that out of that team, she would still be the only one there?
Yeah. So anyway, so she's definitely like, I was dreading. She appeared. She was making those appearances with R-Truth, which, by the way, is he still? What happened?
I don't know. Where's Asuka? She's the women's champion on SmackDown. She hadn't been on the show for like 3 weeks.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Although I can just see them doing a thing at WrestleMania where they announce like R-Truth, and he comes down and he says, "I'm going to do an open challenge to anybody who comes out," and then they have someone like Gilbert comes out and he just runs away, and then that'll be it. Like R-Truth just takes off through the crowd and refuses to fight him. And
honestly, it'd be funnier if he came out and he's like, "Wait, I'm the United States champion." Like he doesn't know that he is.
They announced they're going to do like a gauntlet match for the #1 contender, and so he comes out to throw his name out there. He goes, "Because I deserve a title and I should be in that match." And then they're like,
"You are the champion."
Yeah, you are. What?
There we go.
He's like, "Oh wait!" And then you see him run to the back, and they show him backstage, like in the locker room, like throwing clothes and stuff.
That would be funny.
Pull out the
that
belt.
would actually be funny.
There we go. So
all right, Hunter, Steph, Vince, you guys listening to this?
You can have that one. That's free. No consultation fee on that one at all. All right. So anyway, they had the match. It wasn't as terrible as I expected. I still think Mandy Rose.
I like how you go into all these matches just like it's going to be bad. Oh, it wasn't that bad.
Oh no, some of them are bad. I expected bad things from anything that has Corbin Burnson in it, and
Corbin.
I'm sorry, Baron Corbin. My mistake. So anyway, what happened here? Oh, we had was it Naomi? Naomi was the one who got the Naomi and Carmella cleared the ring. Naomi hit the split-legged moonsault on Mandy Rose, got the pin. So Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville have to start the match. So there you go. So they have like the worst, like awkward graphic of all time.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That was just it was straight. Like I kind of liked it though, as weird as it
was. Here's the weird thing to me. To me, what it looked like was paper dolls.
Or the color forms.
Okay, yeah, that works too. Yeah. But I was thinking paper dolls, and it's like you're talking about the first ever women's tag elimination chamber match. It's brutal. It's hardcore. It's the unforgiving structure. It makes Hell in the Cell look like a walk in the park. And here are paper dolls showing you where the women are going to stand when the match starts. Like it was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, where they showed these cutouts of them standing on top of the thing. So yeah, it was awkward.
But I dug it.
Presto Magics, where you rub it off with the pencil.
Yeah.
But anyway, that looked really bad. But anyway, they showed, so it's going to be Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville starting against Sasha Banks and Bayley.
Yep.
So I don't think Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville are going to make it to the end. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I figured like once we get to the we'll go with the chamber card and we'll give our predictions real quick at the end of who we think's going in.
Okay. Now looking at my notes, everything makes sense. So next up was they announced Miz and Shane for Miz TV, and so I probably
Miz TV. That's why you just zoned out. You walked out of the room.
I walked out of the room, and then they did the Mustafa Ali promo at that point.
Okay. Once again, the Miz, your mortal enemy.
So I didn't pay, like I just like tuned everything out, and so then they came back, and I told myself like I so wanted to fast forward through this, and I told myself don't fast forward through it. Just sit here, just watch it, just let it happen. They called out the Usos. Oh my gosh! So I'm gonna have to hear that dumb Uso penitentiary garbage again. So Shane and Miz, they were there. Shane is going to be a guest star on NCIS, and so they announced it here on McMiz TV. They brought out the Usos. Oh, but he's not on NCIS. He's on NCIS with LL Cool J, which is another NCIS. It's like
wasn't that one more popular than the original NCIS?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, I think one NCIS is like what my parents watch, and one NCIS is like what my sister watches.
Okay.
So I think there's like, instead of it being like Law and Order, where it's just like every Law and Order is for the same demographic, it's just like instead of watching one show, watch three. I think with the NCIS, or what was the other one? CSI. It was like you watch every CSI if you like CSI.
Yeah.
I think with NCIS, it's like, okay, we have one that all the old people like to watch. Now we'll make one for the young people
for the cool kids.
And then they're going to come out with like NCIS Jump Street High School, and they'll do that for the teenagers
as well. So Shane's going to hang out with LL Cool J and Robin.
Yes.
Okay,
As a matter of fact, he is.
Right on.
Honestly, I was thinking the only thing I could think of that Chris O'Dowd was in, I'd forgotten that he had played Robin, and that was even like in 2 movies. But the only thing I could think of he was in was there was some dumb movie with Minnie Driver. It was one of those romantic dramedy things that came out. I just remember, and the only reason why I remember this is because the first time I had HBO, that was one of the movies that was on rotation, and so it was either like that or Groundhog Day. So it's like you would turn on HBO, you're like, what are we getting? Like, what are we? Groundhog Day, yes! And then you'd watch the whole thing. And then you turn it on and you see like Minnie Driver crying about something. Oh, man.
I think Chris O'Donnell was in Sin of a Woman as well, right?
I've never seen it.
Huh. Hoo-ha!
No,
I don't know. Yeah.
All right, so they had the Usos. The Usos refused to sit down in the chairs. The Usos wanted to show that they were a better team. So one of them was like, what's my favorite color? And the other one was like, red. And he was like, what's my favorite food? And the other guy was like, pizza. And what was my favorite? Whatever. And they did whatever. So then Miz and Shane were like, oh, yeah, well, we're just as good of a team. And so Miz goes, hey, Shane, what's my favorite color? Blue. And then Shane goes, blue. And they're like, yes. What's my favorite, AAA hometown minor league baseball team? And like whatever the Haystacks, the Ohio Haystacks or whatever.
Holy Toledo.
Shane's like it's the Ohio Haystacks. You see every guy in the crowd like, woo, that's our team. They mentioned our minor league team because that's something. And then they did the Holy Toledo. Mud Hens. Toledo Mud Hens. That's what it was. So Toledo Mud Hens, and then Miz decided he was going to ask the Usos something about Mandy Rose, and the Usos got mad and did a double super kick.
Yep.
There's
something I think where Mandy Rose was hitting on Mandy Rose hitting on one of the Usos that's married to Naomi or something, and then they did a segment where it was like Mandy Rose had sent sent him a seductive text.
Is this like
a picture? I think
real life thing.
I don't know. No, I think it's all storyline stuff. But that was on Smackdown like a month ago.
Storyline.
I mean, they should. They may as well, right?
They do a lot of it. I know they do a lot of it.
I haven't watched any Total Divas, and I never will.
I have one friend. He actually used to come and watch the indie wrestling shows, and then he moved away. But we still talk on Facebook, whatever. And he watches everything WWE. So he watches 205 Live. He watches NXT. He watches Raw. He watches SmackDown. He watches, anything, all of those, Mix Max Challenge and Superstars and,
But does he watch this show?
So he watches Total Divas. And
I'm saying, does he watch our show?
Oh, our show? Oh, no, he's got too much class for that, maybe. But no,
I think you need a new friend, Dirt.
But not ones that like wrestling these days. So he was like, no, you should watch it because you see the insight to their lives and whatever and blah blah blah. And I was like, fine, whatever, I'll watch it. I watched one episode. I watched one episode of Total Divas, and it was like. Enough. It was like the week after John Cena had shown whichever Bella it was a prenuptial agreement.
Oh yeah, Nikki.
Yeah,
his big 400-page book that she had to read everything and sign.
And he's like, I don't want to do this, but my lawyers say I should do this, and I've been divorced once already, and I just feel like whatever. So here it is, and then she wouldn't do it, and then she's on the phone and she's crying, and Daniel Bryan is like, don't be such a baby. Like, come on, be a man, whatever. And it's just like, I hate all these people. Personally, as human beings, I think less of the Bellas now after watching that episode of Total Bellas than I thought they were bad human beings from watching them do terrible angles on SmackDown. I've seen into their real lives, and their real lives are horrible. And the way they talk and act and they make drama out of everything, I hate them even more. Now, granted, like I said, it's not real life. I know a lot of that's scripted. They play up a lot of it for the cameras. You're going to have people following you around, so you got to make it into a bigger deal than it really is. But I like, wow. When they announced one of them got hurt and the other one retired and they were gone, I was like celebrating on the inside. I was like, okay, well, at least we don't have to deal with, and then they came back.
It's like Alberto Del Rio, man.
But I liked Alberto Del Rio.
No. To me, that like he is my Miz. He's just a vacuum.
El Patron. He's great.
I think outside of WWE,
as a person, he's probably a terrible human being.
Oh yeah.
But like when you saw him in like Lucha Underground or whatever, he was great. Like he's a good heel. Like
I was gonna say, if you take him out of WWE, I'm sure he's fantastic. But in WWE, I know he bores the hell out of me.
But I'm also the one guy who really liked JBL as champion. So anyway,
this show is over.
So good.
I mean, I get it. It makes sense. I feel like his title reign was too long.
Well, that is true. It went on for way too long, but
but it led up to John Cena getting his first championship, like major top tier, and
especially a lot of the stuff that he did with like Rey Mysterio. A lot of that stuff was really great, and that was the only time. That's the only time I liked Orlando Jordan. Right, that was the guy, yeah. Because as soon as
you didn't like it when he was squirting the lotion on himself.
No, as soon as he went to like TNA, I was like, wow, I hope this guy dies. Okay. Not really. Okay, no, all hate mail goes to.
All right, so I was gonna say. So does Orlando Jordan at this point, I guess, surpass the Miz in that regard?
No.
You want the Miz to die too?
Yes.
Once again, all hate mail. Dirt. What was it again? Dirt
at popculturenetwork.com.
All right, there we go.
All right, so we finally got to the end, and so again, like I was really confused here because I didn't understand what was going on, and so I was getting ready to say like this was a fun segment, but it made absolutely no sense. I have no idea why Kofi Kingston was out there. Like why was Daniel Bryan taking on the New Day, but then it was only one of the New Day, but then he stayed out there to keep fighting against everyone.
Did they not put any graphics up during the show? It's like, we're going to have a gauntlet match, blah, blah, blah. Where you were just that zoned out and tuned out?
I think it was at this point, after all the stuff that had gone on, it was a lot of, okay, yeah, show's still going. Okay, yeah, show's still going.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot of that stuff with my phone. So, because at this point details did not matter. But now that you say that, that makes a lot more sense. And for what they did, they actually did the right thing. Because if you're going to throw Kofi Kingston into the middle of this thing, and you did this big gauntlet match, then it makes sense that he has to look strong. Now, he's not going to win. He shouldn't be the last guy in there because everyone else should be formidable opponents. But he should look like an actual threat.
He looked like $1 million in this thing.
Yeah, to the other people.
He was fantastic in this.
So Daniel Bryan, he goes out there, he starts talking, and he got some cheers and some boos, and then he told the people he didn't care because they were fickle, and he's going to be there to show them how they need to live their lives and whatever. And so he's really trying to distance everybody that wants to cheer for him. And they tried that once before with him chanting the nose, but then the nose became a thing, and then it became a face doing the no chants and whatever. So who knows what's going to... It's like you can't see Daniel Bryan as a bad guy because you know how much of a wuss he really is in real life. And like, I hate to use that term, but like it's really true, like he's like so over the top, like fuzzy and huggable and lovable. I just love the animals and I love the earth. and I just want to give everybody positivity and love. And then he comes out on SmackDown and he's like, I hate all you people and you're all a bunch of idiots. And everybody's just like, yeah, fuzzball. Okay.
I mean, that's the tough part, I guess, these days of being a professional wrestler in the age of social media and reality television is you can't, unless you're just going to play that character 24/7, and most guys don't want to do that anymore. That's kind of what you wind up with, right?
Right.
Is Dirt thinking he's a big, huge wuss, and but he's doing good. He's doing good heel work.
But part of the problem is, like, you know, if you think back 30 years, one of the biggest controversies. How old am I? Yeah, about 30 years. If you go back about 30 years, one of the biggest controversies was Hacksaw Jim Duggan getting pulled over in the same car with Iron Sheik, right? Yeah. Not like when Rob Van Dam got pulled over and like he cracked the window for the cop and like 5 metric tons of smoke wafted out and the briefcase full of pills happened to fall on the ground. This was a controversy because a face and a heel were in a car together.
Yeah.
Like that was the controversy.
Yeah.
If you think back, I remember there was some guy, I think it was Ray Stevens, and like he supposedly broke his leg and they put his leg in a cast. And this was like 1957 or something. So they put a cast on his leg and they made the cast so that he could slide his leg out and slide it back in, right? So it's a little loose. So the idea was he could put it on, he could go to the arena, he could make an appearance in front of the crowd, he could cut a promo, he could get attacked. And then he could go backstage, take it off, and go home. And then, like 3 days later, someone took a photograph of him going outside, getting mail out of the mailbox. He was on crutches with his leg in the cast because he said, if I'm going to leave my house, I'm going to wear the cast because everybody thinks my leg is broken. Yeah. This is my life. This is my job.
Yep. Kayfabe, man.
And that's
strong.
Right. And nobody does that anymore. Like that, it kind of breaks my heart, you know. It's like
it does, but at the same time, too, it just back then there weren't cell phones and people couldn't.
Well, yeah, but even then, it's like if Daniel Bryan, if you're now the heel, then you need to go on Instagram and start cutting those heel promos. Start posting that, like the heel vegan propaganda. You know, it's like. You know, the cows every day are crying in shame and misery because you have to eat your hamburgers, and like, you know, get a shot of him standing outside of McDonald's with you know, like boo all the meat eaters or something like that, and just like clean it up, you know.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And do some of that stuff, which he's not doing. So, you know, come on, Daniel Bryan, step up your game. That's all I'm saying.
Stop being a wuss.
Stop being a wuss. All right. So
once again, all hate mail goes to dirt@popculturenetwork.com.
All right. So the New Day comes down to the ring, and they had, of course, Kofi has a plate of pancakes, and Xavier Woods has his trombone, and you had Big E with a giant tube of meat. Which, like, on the one hand, you're like, oh, well, okay. A, it makes sense that Daniel Bryan's a vegan, so he's going to walk out with a big tube of meat. Like, that's okay. That's kind of funny. But then B, it's Big E, and Big E comes out with his giant tube of meat, and then you're like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There's your Mark Henry reference. You know, hey ladies, here's my big sausage, you know, going back to the DX promos. So, all right. It's like, okay, that's kind of funny. So they did some incantation, a magical spell, and Kofi gets to be the wrestler in this match. So they had Kofi Kingston versus Daniel Bryan. It was a lot of fun, a lot of action. They did a lot of, you know, big rope, you know, moves, a lot of the flippy jump stuff, a lot of high energy. Yeah. And it was great. Like, this is when I started to be like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but this match is a lot of fun. So eventually, Daniel Bryan, he went for, I think it was a running knee. But instead, Kofi Kingston catches him with the Trouble in Paradise. And gets the win. So it's like he gets the win out of nowhere. He gets the win on the champion, but it's not for the title, so it's in the gauntlet match. So there's almost this idea of like Daniel Bryan isn't fighting at full strength, but he is fighting because he's a fighting champion, whatever. But he can lose here; it's not that big of a deal. And you're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
They had Kofi Kingston versus Jeff Hardy, but it was weird. They went to a commercial, and they went to like the longest commercial break in history. It was like a 10-minute break or something. It was something ridiculous for commercials. But then they finally came back. Jeff Hardy was there. The two of them had a match. It was, again, a lot of high energy, a lot of top rope stuff, a lot of flippy, jump. But they had Jeff Hardy went to the top rope. Kofi Kingston pushes him off. Hardy rolls him through to try to get a pin. Kofi kicks out. Jeff Hardy hops up. He bounces off the ropes. Kofi hits him with a Trouble in Paradise, lays him out, and gets the pin. And it was one of those exchanges where, like, it was almost perfect, like the way they laid it out. Like, it was one of those things where as soon as it was done, I actually rewound it and watched that 15-second chunk a second time, because it was just so great the way they laid it out, and everything made sense the way it folded into each other. And then the move came out of nowhere. And even though it came out of nowhere, it still made sense in the chaos that they had built there. It was just great. So even though it was kind of short, it was still a lot of fun. It had a great ending. And again, that Trouble in Paradise, it came out of nowhere, and it shows how a move like that, can really make a difference in eliminating somebody out of an elimination chamber. So it's one of those moves. Kofi could not even be involved in a lot of the match. And these other two guys are going at it, and he goes to whip one guy into the corner, and Kofi can hit him Trouble in Paradise 1, 2, 3. He's out, and Kofi gets an elimination over somebody, and he wasn't even involved in most of the fighting. So they're setting up to remind you that he has some of these moves that can come out of nowhere.
Well, because he's been toiling away like in tag matches for so long. It was nice to see Kofi showcase what he's capable of as a singles competitor.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that he's really had the last few years is they give him the Royal Rumble spots where he gets back in. But even now, they're letting No Talent Naomi take a bunch of those. So, although I say that, but Naomi even looked a little better in this week's show. I'll say that, but I'm still not convinced. All right. Then they had Samoa Joe came out. And Samoa Joe is like, his fighting style is completely different, and that's one of the things that always makes him interesting, but at the same time makes a lot of these matchups kind of weird, because Samoa Joe fights like this really powerful, strong MMA influenced, because obviously he's not doing a lot of top rope flips. He's not doing 450s, he's not doing springboard drop kicks. He's not doing missile drop kicks. You know what I mean? Like, he's a big fella, dude. Samoan. What are you going to do? So this was a little weird with Kofi, because Kofi is so high energy and Joe is so low. What ended up happening was you had Joe, like, about, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes into it, Joe, he ended up with what I call the grandpa just woke up haircut. Like, his hair, because they kept like doing all this, Kofi was flipping around him and all this stuff, like his hair looked like he like if you wash your hair and go to bed and then you wake up in the next morning and you've got, like, this thing going on, like Joe had that thing going on. And so then, like, he puts Kofi in a submission match, and he's like submission move, he's holding him down, and all you can see of Joe is this head sticking out. So you see this head sticking out over Kofi's body, and it's with this haircut on top of his head. It just looks so goofy. But it's fun. It's whenever you get a clash of styles, if it works well, it works well.
And Joe usually has a tendency to work well with pretty much anybody.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great talent.
He really is. I hope at some point he gets the title at some, because he deserves it. Definitely deserves it at this point. All
right, so then Kofi Kingston ended up like he countered a choke, and then
they did the whole Survivor Series '96 Austin Bret Hart match. Bret Hart had him in that, and then Stone Cold went in the corner and just like backed up and rolled over and just pinned him 1, 2, 3.
So then, of course, Joe got mad and started beating up and choking out Kofi, and AJ Styles ended up running out, and he fought with Joe for a little bit, and so Joe ended up leaving. And so then AJ Styles is like, Kofi, let's just let's just stop. We don't have to do this. And Kofi was like, no, he's determined. He's going to fight this. And so he rolls in the ring. And so they did the baby face in the higher position, who's fresh and has the energy, is trying to beg out from the guy who's hurt. He's like, I don't want to hurt you. This is like, you just got beat up by Samoa Joe. You shouldn't be in here. Like, I'm worried about you. And Kofi is just like, no, I want to fight. Like, I'm here to fight. And so even though Kofi couldn't really put up much of a fight, AJ Styles is like, all right, let's do it.
Doesn't Kofi like smack him in the face, like shove him?
He's like, because he keeps saying like I don't, I don't want to do this. Like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, I don't want to. And then Kofi snaps him, and so they get it on and they start having this match. But they still had AJ hold back. So it's like he would do a couple moves and try to go for a pin. Kofi would get out, and so he would go for something else and hit a snap suplex real quick and try to cover him, and Kofi would kick out. And you just had this idea that AJ is just sitting there the whole time going like, just stop kicking out. Like, I'm going to hit him with something, and he just like stop fighting back, and Kofi just keeps fighting. So eventually AJ just gets the better of him. Like, they even do a spot where Kofi gets thrown out of the ring. They did it with I think they also did it with the one with Joe, where they threw him out and he climbs back in. He made it in. They did it again with AJ. AJ threw him out, and he's just like, just stay out, just stay down. Just like, don't come back. Kofi gets back in the ring, and he's like, all right, we'll keep going. But eventually Kofi goes for the SOS. But AJ put him into a submission move.
Yeah. The calf crusher.
And he's, he's got it cinched in tight. And so then Kofi finally taps out.
Yeah.
So again, Kofi doesn't win. Kofi doesn't stay through to being the last guy. But Kofi looks really strong, and he looks.
He went an hour.
So, and so he earned his spot.
Yeah. So
this was great. Like, if I could have not seen any of the first hour of SmackDown and just seen this part, and like I said, now that it makes sense, I like it even more. So then they had, I think, probably the greatest segment.
Yeah.
In this.
It was a good way to end it, honestly.
So Randy Orton's music hits because he's the last guy. So AJ is standing there and he's looking at the entryway and he's waiting, and the camera like gets this close up of AJ, and AJ's like determined. He just has that look on his face, and he's like, you almost get the feeling Randy Orton's going to walk out, and AJ may even like jump out of the ring and go just start fighting him in the entryway. Just to show him like who's boss, get this over with. AJ's going to cement himself. And so they have the shot of him, and he's just standing there waiting. He's just standing there waiting. And all of a sudden you just see these two arms come out of nowhere and drop. And they cut back, and Randy Orton has come out of nowhere and hit one of those RKOs, just blind out of nowhere. And 1, 2, 3, it's over.
Yeah. That is a perfect way to end it. What an excellent gauntlet match. That was perfectly booked, perfectly executed. And honestly, because we'll get into our predictions, I would be all right if they put the title on Kofi. I'm just saying, New Day has just been stagnant in the tag division there for a while. They need something new to do. It's been touted that Big E and Xavier Woods really want Kofi because they joke about him being like the grandpa and everything, and like he's the reason they got into the business, just joking around with him and everything. Put the strap on Kofi. He's been there for
but
11, 12 years.
They won't do it at this match.
I know.
WrestleMania. I mean,
well, maybe they can build a program to where it could be like Kofi and Daniel Bryan having a championship match at WrestleMania, because you enjoyed what they did in the gauntlet.
Yeah, and that would be fine. Like, I'm totally fine with that. If they were to do something where the Elimination Chamber comes down to the two of them, Daniel Bryan wins, but maybe he does something dirty. Maybe as whoever is next to last eliminated, as they open the door to let that guy out, maybe Rowan can distract him and toss in the belt. And so then Daniel Bryan is able to get the belt, clock Kofi with it. 1, 2, 3, he gets the pin, he wins. But then they're like, well, you cheated, you used the belt. So then they'd set up the match for Fastlane. Maybe Fastlane, they'll have Kofi versus Rowan, and if he can beat Rowan, then he gets to face Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. Then they can set up the WrestleMania match right there.
Boom. Done. Once again, Vince, Hunter, Steph, you guys can have that one.
That's another free one. All right, but anyway, so winning this whole thing means now that what's his name, the Viper, gets to be the last guy released into
what's his name, the Viper. Randy Orton, man, your brain.
He's it's only because like his dad and his uncle wrestled for decades about an hour away from where I live that I can't remember the name Orton. You know, it's like I live an hour from St. Louis. That's where their careers are from. I can't remember their name. That one, what's his name? Tyler Black, that guy?
It's just Raw, man. Raw is what killed your brain cells.
So
obviously, I kind of feel like we're going with this. I'm giving the edge to SmackDown this week. Raw was just a sludge of things that were just drawn out for too long. And on SmackDown, yes, you have a gauntlet match that took up half the show, but the way that was booked and the way that it flowed, perfect. So yeah, Raw needs to be 2 hours again. That's just what it boils down to. 3 hours.
Yeah, it was definitely SmackDown was definitely a lot better. Raw, if the network would let them give up the hour, they should lose the hour. In fact, I honestly, this is something I think both shows should do, both Raw and SmackDown. The first half hour of both shows should be the old Lord Alfred Hayes shows. If you remember those things that they would do when they'd do the thing where they were sitting in the booth with all the TV screens behind them. It'd be Lord Alfred Hayes, or it'd be Todd Pettengill, or Sean Mooney, right?
Man. I'll help you out. We'll get through this.
The newer incarnation was with Shane McMahon's wife. Marissa,
I can't remember. I can't remember her name.
Livewire, I think, was the name.
Yeah,
of the
Livewire. Yeah.
So they would do those like recap shows that were just kind of talking about all the stuff. Like, I think the first half hour of both Raw and SmackDown should be one of those recap style shows, especially when they move SmackDown to Friday nights and they're treating them like they are separate shows. The first half hour is that recap show in the booth, in the studio, leading up to the live event that's going to start. And then you have a 90-minute show. You have an hour and a half show that would start at 7:30 and ends at 9 o'clock. And you only have 90 minutes for both shows, with that hour and a half like pre-show thing that builds up to it. I think that's what they need to do with both shows. Get rid of the 3 hours, get rid of this need that they have to fill the full 2 hours. 90 minutes is like the perfect amount to fill that wrestling, and you can do some of those promos and the backstage stuff.
Totally
all of that stuff in that recap package show at the beginning.
But that's the thing. If they do that, I wouldn't want it to be entirely. I wouldn't want it to be just the recap stuff. Maybe do something different in the way of.
Well, but you do the interviews. You do
having more like character development sort of stuff.
Right. You do the segments where you show like
the Michael Cole sit down interviews that they always put on YouTube are actually like those need to be shown on TV.
Actually, I was thinking go do the segment where like Big E is at the Golden Corral buffet. You know, like remember when they would do those type of things where like he walks in and you see the manager of the place just like, oh my gosh, who's this guy? And you just see Big E with like plate after plate of food and like little kids coming up, and like some little kid looks like, wow, man, that's a lot of mashed potatoes. And he'd be just like, you're right, and I ain't sharing them. And he just starts like eating the whole plate. Like when they would do those kind of segments, those were awesome segments. And I want to see those type of things return. And that's like the perfect thing that you can put those into. And then also you put like the 2-minute version of that in the recap show, but you have the 5-minute version on YouTube, you know, as part of that social media thing that they always feel they have to do. So, YouTube and Instagram, you can find it. So like it all works together, you know, that's the perfect thing they need to be doing.
Yeah. Just got to get Vince behind it. That's the main thing.
I'll send
him USA. Yeah, there you
go. One other thing. I totally forgot to mention this last week, and I was kicking myself after we went off the air because I forgot to. I got lost in my notes, you know, when I was reading stuff. There was so they were doing that whole night. They were doing the Popeyes $5 combo, boneless wing combo. Like, this is a crazy combo, just like Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev, you know, whatever. So I had one of those combos actually, and it was very good. I had one the other night, but I forgot in the main event when Daniel Bryan was out there, they made Corey Graves and
Byron Sexton.
Yes, I keep wanting to say Byron Allen every time I look at him. Byron Sexton. They were going back and forth in the commentary, and Byron Sexton said something about Daniel Bryan being this vegan, and it's like all their food smells terrible, whatever. And Corey Graves goes, "Well, you backstage, I could barely even smell my quinoa over the smell of all that fried chicken you were eating." And I'm thinking, okay, obviously that's because they've been talking about the Popeyes boneless wing combo thing all night. But
well, it sounds a little racist.
But Black History Month, and they do the segment about Black History Month, and then they have the white guy tell the black guy that he's smelling up the back of the place with his fried chicken. So I'm like, is there going to be a watermelon reference this week or something? Like, is there was something like, and the funny thing was though, like the moment he said it, commentary went dead.
Yeah,
like it completely went dead.
I'm sure Vince was yelling in his ear.
He probably said it, and then Byron Allen turned to him. Sexton, I know, but Byron Allen turned to him and was like, "What?" And then you saw Corey Graves would probably like, oh yeah, and they probably just sat there in complete silence.
You're not Renee Young. Wait a minute.
Like, how about them Cubbies? Just like, let's change the subject. So I wish I'd remembered to bring that up last week. That was hilarious. But anyway, yeah. So SmackDown though definitely has been the better show of the two, and a lot of it does have to do with the fact that it's a lot shorter.
Yeah,
like it is just it's a better driven, compacted show because they don't have to fill as much time, because Raw has not become we have to pack 3 hours. It's we have to take 2 hours and stretch it to fill 3. And that's part of what kills me is it takes so long. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go to watching the Hulu ones, but this, like I said, this week damn near killed me. So
it's all right, because now you got Elimination Chamber this Sunday, and that'll be a good.
I'm sure that'll be
7-hour show. No, I don't think they'll do that with this one. I think it will just be your traditional pay-per-view runtime.
All right. So what do you think about the pay-per-view?
With the Chamber, I always kind of look forward to it anyway. Like any of the gimmick shows, like the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, anytime there's a Hell in a Cell match, I look forward to those. Granted, not as much as I had in previous years because they have sort of toned it down a little bit. Like with the Chamber, you remember originally before outside the ring, like that was just the steel grate, and now they've like put mats over top of that on the outside, right, but they still treat it the same way. Like, oh, it's so devastating, and it's not as nowhere near. Like they don't land on it and then get up. And,
I mean, so many shoulder problems coming out of that and everything. So,
but no, I look forward to it. Would you? I got the card right here. Do you? I'll throw you the match, and you give me your prediction. Obviously, this first match here at the bottom, I imagine, will be the kickoff show. It's for the Cruiserweight title. Buddy Murphy, the champion, going against Akira Tozawa. Do you have a pick? Do you even care?
I like Buddy Murphy. I think he's a great talent.
Oh, I did too as well. It's just with the 205, they shove them off to the side, and they need to make them prominent.
Yeah, I don't watch 205 live, so I can't really say a whole lot about that. But I would say if I have to pick, I would pick Buddy Murphy to retain.
All right, I would as well. Maybe they'll change it up. Who knows? The next one, I don't know if this will be kickoff or it will be on the main show. No disqualification match. You got Baron Corbin versus Braun Strowman. Do you even care? Because I kind of don't.
I'm crying. I'm
gonna go with Baron Corbin. It's probably there'll be shenanigans. McIntyre will probably come out and cost Braun the match or something. It'll be throwaway. Because there's no disqualification after all.
They did have the whole thing with Kurt Angle coming out like he was going to announce his retirement last week, and then he didn't. I kind of think they'll do some sort of angle where Kurt Angle gets hurt in the brawl, and so then Kurt Angle, because he gets hurt in the brawl, he can't compete. So then, therefore, he'll announce that he's going to retire, and then someone will challenge him for WrestleMania, and so WrestleMania will be like his last match. And he's like, "I'll die in the ring if I have to."
And he probably will at this rate because his bones will turn to dust.
Yeah, just because it'll lead to that angle, so they'll do like Kurt Angle versus Corbin Burnson at WrestleMania. So they'll let Corbin Burnson win this one.
I like Corbin Burnson in Major League. I like it when he gets hit by that pitch.
Well, he was great in Psych. Like, he was such an awesome dad in Psych. That was such a fun TV show. He's just not good as a GM of Raw.
Oh man! All right, we got Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship.
They're going to screw over Finn Balor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Bobby Lashley retains. Yeah. The Miz and Shane McMahon versus the Usos for the Tag Team Championships.
I can't feel like Shane and Miz is a tag team for the ages. And I have no faith in them even lasting to WrestleMania. So I'm going to say the Usos are going to take the titles.
Yeah, I feel like this is somehow going to turn into the Miz and Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. Yeah. All right. Yeah. The tag team elimination chamber match for the women's tag titles. Anyone kind of sticking out to you? I know we said that Sasha Banks and Bayley are probably the favorites, but I genuinely don't feel like they're going to go with them.
Again, I think they're going to go with Sasha and Bayley just because they can get Snoop Dogg to retweet it and put a picture of them on Instagram, and that means more to them than actually having a compelling match. I mean, that's not to say Sasha and Bayley can't have a compelling match. Yeah. I'm just saying they see a greater emphasis on maybe we can get Snoop Dogg to appear on Raw, you know? So yeah, I see Sasha and Bayley.
Man, I think I'm going to go with Nia Jax and Tamina.
Wow.
Yeah, I see that being the case of for whatever reason they want to continue to push Nia Jax.
Honestly, I'll say this: if it's not Sasha and Bayley, my backup default I think would be the Iconics.
I can see that too,
and because they keep positioning the Iconics in these top spots, and they did the things this past week where they were interviewing all the different teams and like, what would it mean to you to win and whatever. And it's like, everyone was like, well, we're a team and, we'll destroy everybody for each other. And, Bayley went out and cut some like weird promo, like we've earned this and we've, whatever. But when they did the Iconics were, even though they're heels, they were like on the verge of tears. Like, it means so much. It's just such a huge moment. This is like going to be a moment in history for women's wrestling for all time. And they really played it up as being much bigger than about them in the match and more about the match itself, which is such a babyface thing to do for the titles from a heel group. Like, it didn't fit with the storyline of them being heels going into this match. So I almost feel like they overdid it to kind of plant those seeds in your head that maybe they will win and winning will turn them face. But again, that could just be me.
Yeah, I think you're just thinking about it way more than anybody that's writing the show ever does.
Wrestling. Yeah. So there's that. Okay, so next match.
Ronda Rousey and Ruby Riott. We already kind of discussed this. I think we both in the camp of we think that Ronda will retain, but there could be something weird.
Okay, well, look, I'm going to say that you can take this to the bank. I will bet $100 versus anyone that the woman wrestling with the name that's abbreviated RR is going to win the title.
There you go. I like what you did there. We'll leave it at that. And who you got in the championship chamber match?
Like I said, Daniel Bryan with Rowan interference to set something up for Fastlane to set up something for WrestleMania.
There we go. So overall, we're kind of feeling that other than crowning new women's tag team champions, that the show could potentially just sort of be like, just throw away, just generic. We're not going to put much effort or thought into like entertaining or surprising the
Yeah,
crowd at all.
I feel like over the last few years, well, ever since actually they split Raw and SmackDown and we're doing monthly pay-per-views for both. Ever since that happened, all of these gimmick matches just don't measure up anymore because they just do way too many of them, and it's really hard to come up with some sort of great hook for these matches because the match used to be the gimmick.
Yeah.
And now they have to gimmick the match. So the match doesn't mean anything. The match leads to something.
Yeah.
So, like a steel cage match, it used to be a steel cage match was the end of the feud. Like you would have the steel cage match to prove once and for all, no outside interference, no referee getting involved. You have the cage match. One guy wins, one guy loses. It's settled. It's over. It's done. Now they do a cage match so that one guy can get over on the other guy so they can do a rematch without a cage later on. And it's like what's the point?
Yeah.
So that's what I feel with a lot of these gimmick matches. You see way too many of them. They don't mean anything.
Yeah. You nailed that on the head. That's the problem with wrestling these days. I hate the fact that it has to be 50-50 now. It can't just be build up, it's done, it's over, or keep them apart until then. It's like, no, they got to wrestle each other every week for 2 months on every show, and it's like you get sick of it.
Well, and it's also the art of the jobber is dead. Yeah. The guys who were like the Barry Horowitz and the Barry O and the Brooklyn Brawler and the guys who you knew would never win, but they were only there to make the top stars look better. Like those guys are gone. And what they'll end up doing is bringing a new guy, shoot him to the moon. He doesn't get over like they want him to. They bury him in the mid card, and he's just constantly losing to guys who are supposedly better than him until he quits. And then you have no more Damian Sandow. Even though he's a great talent, he was a good promo, he was awesome for a long time. He didn't do whatever it was they wanted, so they made him a Miz sidekick to get beat up for 2 years, and then he's gone. There's no longer that guy who it's like you'd see Barry O come out to do a match, and you're like, all right, Barry O is obviously not going to beat Ultimate Warrior, but you're going to get an entertaining 5 minutes in the ring of just getting beat up by Ultimate Warrior. You're going to get to see all the big moves that Ultimate Warrior does, and all the stuff that like he can't always get away with in a main event match, because in the main event match now you're supposedly dealing with people who can counter the stuff. And they can't, get away with these quick wins that they can get in those job matches. So that is something that's missing in the modern wrestling, and it's really hard. Like WWE has to market every character, and every character has to get made into an action figure, and every character has to be, good enough that they can, trademark the name and sell the rights and, put them on a t-shirt and whatever.
Yeah.
And you can no longer have a guy who every week goes out and loses, and his gimmick is not that every week he loses like a Kurt Hawkins. His gimmick is he's just one of the guys who goes out there and wrestles, and some guys always win and some guys always lose.
Yeah, that's kind of the major drawback from the Monday Night War, really.
Yeah,
they moved on from the jobber match to we got to have fresh matchups each week, and now it's that. So I'm saying, like, it's been the same way since then. They need to do something to just radically change how they present their product. If that's bringing back jobber matches and having a couple more of those per show, I would say let's do that, because it makes that talent look better, and it doesn't take anything away from the jobber, really. So I don't know. At the same time, too, like, the culture is different. Back then, it's like, yeah, I know he might, but there's still a chance. Now it's like, yeah, all right, absolutely zero chance. Why am I even watching this? This is boring. This is a jobber. Why do I care about this guy?
Right.
I don't know. It's a double-edged sword. They kind of just box themselves in a corner these last 20 years.
Yep.
2-hour show. It's only supposed to be an hour long, right, Dirt?
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, you're the one who's got to go to work, right?
Yeah, that's true. Big old long day. I can't wait for him to potentially be like, you're staying over. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go have Chinese food. So
well,
you can.
Aren't I jealous of that?
I got 2 words for you: Chinese food.
I don't think that works in the context of saying Chinese food and then.
It depends on how you eat your Chinese food.
Yeah, but are you referring to your crotch as Chinese? I mean, I guess it applies the same thing as suck it, right?
You've never seen me eat noodles.
All right. How do you segue out of that one? I got
goodbye, everybody. See you next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Or Thursday, depending on what happens.
Yeah.
Actually, is Thursday just generally better for you?
I don't know. It just depends on how they. I'm telling you, they don't have a set way of like, all right, we're working over tonight. It's just I find out last minute we're staying over. Great, I'm getting less sleep. Fantastic.
All right, well, I'm going to schedule it for Wednesday then.
All right,
and hopefully our subscribers will check out the page just in case there's a last minute change. But I'll tell you what, guys, if you go to bit.ly/T, capital C, capital P, lowercase oddcast, bit.ly/TC podcast, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can click subscribe. You can hit that little bell icon. When we make the event page, you can click the reminder, and Google will do anything and everything to let you know that we're going to go live, so you can catch the show and make sure.
They'll send a robot to bust down your door.
They'll send an Amazon drone to come shoot your wife in the head to remind you that we are live.
Skynet is here and it is real.
All right, guys. I guess I'm going to have to, like, the next 2 days are going to be therapy to get me ready for.
You need to cleanse yourself.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of WWE product.
Just watch some of those Raws where they had the guest hosts. There you go.
I'm just gonna watch Groundhog Day.
There you go. Watch the Minnie Driver movie with Chris O'Donnell.
No, ever. Don't hate me because I'm a rhinoceros or something like that. I don't remember what it was. It was something dumb. Like, oh my gosh. All right, that's gonna do it. Until next week, pants off, dance off. Thanks for
I was gonna say that. You took it from me. See you guys next week.
See ya.